Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm starting a brand new sketchbook with you. If you've been following my videos for a while, you probably know that I usually work in several sketchbooks at the same time. A few months ago, I started a larger Ohuhu Mixed Media Sketchbook and I absolutely love the paper in it. The quality is great and it's been a lot of fun to work in. The problem is that I've spent so many years drawing in A5 sketchbooks that I find it much harder to use a larger format on a daily basis. Over the last few months, I slowly fell out of my regular sketchbook routine and I found myself feeling a bit uninspired and frustrated by that. Eventually, I realized that maybe the solution was quite simple. Instead of forcing myself to use a format that doesn't fit my daily habits, I decided to start a smaller sketchbook again. My larger Ohuhu sketchbook will still be there for bigger illustrations and projects, but this one will be for everyday drawing, experimenting, and staying creative. Actually, I have quite a few sketchbooks going at the moment. Maybe I could make a video showing all the sketchbooks I'm currently working in, so let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. Since I started the sketchbook back in May, I was really in the mood to draw something inspired by the ocean. Years ago, I used to participate in the Mermaid challenge quite often, so drawing a mermaid felt like the perfect way to begin a new sketchbook. I designed this opening spread with an underwater theme, including a mermaid and a decorative sign surrounded by seashells. The sign already has the start date and a little welcome message, but I wait until the sketchbook is finished before adding the number and the end date, obviously. I do this with all my sketchbooks and I always enjoy looking back at old sketchbooks and seeing when they began and how long they took to fill. For this piece, I also wanted to do something I don't use very often anymore. Instead of starting with ink or with watercolor directly, I outlined everything with colored pencils before moving on to watercolor. It gave the illustration a much softer look and was a really fun technique to revisit. Going into the spread, I wasn't trying to create a perfect finished artwork. In fact, there are quite a few messy areas here and there, and honestly, I don't mind that at all. What mattered most was simply being back in familiar territory, sitting down with my sketchbook, experimenting with watercolor and colored pencils, and just enjoying the creative process again. I did run into a few challenges while working on this first page. Since it's attached directly to the cover, the paper behaved a little differently than the rest of the sketchbook. Some of my usual blending techniques didn't work quite the way I wanted them to. But that's one of the things I love about sketchbooks. You learn to adapt, find solutions, and trust the process. After a while, I found a way to work around those issues and just kept going. I could have easily gotten frustrated at that point. Normally, when a technique isn't working the way I want it to, it's very tempting to sit there and complain about it for a while. But that's actually something I've been learning over the last few months. Instead of wasting energy being annoyed by a problem, I try to stay calm and focus on finding a solution. There's usually always a way around it, even if it takes a little experimenting. So rather than letting it ruin my mood, I decided to keep going, trust the process, and work with what I had. In the end, it all turned out just fine, and I honestly enjoyed the page a lot more because I wasn't putting unnecessary pressure on myself. More importantly, I worked on this spread without any pressure or expectations. I wasn't trying to create a masterpiece. I was simply happy to start a new sketchbook and finally put some of the ideas I had been collecting over the last few weeks onto paper. And somewhere during the process, something unexpected happened. The inspiration that I'd been missing for the last few months slowly started to come back. By the time I finished the spread, I already had new ideas for future pages and projects, which was honestly the best feeling I could have hoped for. For the painting process, I used my Van Gogh watercolor palette. It's the set I've been reaching for the most lately, and I've really been enjoying working with these colors. Out of everything on the page, I probably spent the most time on the seashells. There's something incredibly relaxing about painting shells with watercolor. I slowly built up the colors in light layers, took my time and really enjoyed all the little details. The patterns were probably my favorite part. That's where I could really let my creativity take over. There are so many different ways to design seashells, and the possibilities feel almost endless. You can keep them simple, make them colorful, add tiny details, or create completely imaginary patterns. For this spread, I decided to use a softer, slightly muted color palette with a bit of a vintage feel. I wasn't trying to make everything perfectly realistic or match a specific underwater color scheme. As I mentioned before, the goal wasn't to create a finished masterpiece. I simply wanted to enjoy the process and have fun filling the very first pages of this new sketchbook. Once the watercolor was completely dry, I went back in with colored pencils to add some final details and adjustments. One thing I noticed was that some of the outlines on the seashells were a little too light, so I decided to go over them with slightly darker colors to make them stand out more. I also used colored pencils to add extra shading and details to the mermaid. Looking back, I probably could have spent a bit more time on her hair and pushed some of the details further, but honestly, that's completely fine. I think that's one of the nice things about sketchbooks. Not every page has to be perfect. Sometimes the goal is simply to create, experiment, and enjoy the process. And despite the little things I might do differently now, I'm really happy with how the spread turned out. For me, this page feels like a good beginning. Starting this sketchbook has already helped me reconnect with the joy of drawing, and while working on the spread, I found myself getting excited about new ideas again. I want to spend more time making art, filling pages, trying new things, and sharing that journey with all of you. Thank you so much for all the support lately. The shorts have been doing really well, and it's been so much fun working on them and seeing them perform so well. I'm also working on being more consistent with longer videos again. I have lots of ideas I'd love to share, so there are plenty of projects and sketchbook adventures coming in the future. And one more little update before we finish today's video. My new coloring book, Magical Spring Garden, will be releasing very soon. I will share more details in a separate video, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for spending some time drawing with me today. I hope this video inspired you to pick up your sketchbook, start something new, and enjoy the creative process without putting too much pressure on yourself. Take care, keep creating, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!